Good day, everyone. We will be going to discuss the local issue entitled Proposed Tricab Terminal in Alubijid, Misamis Oriental. We will be discussing the SWOT analysis and the recommendation of the local issue.
Hi ma'am, classmates, good day. My topic is about the strength of LGU in terms of local issue proposed Tricab Terminal in Alubijid, Misamis Oriental. There are three strength of LGU in terms of local issue. One is the revenue of LGU will increase due to incoming terminal fee. For me, it is the great privilege for LGU's revenue that there are terminal fee, because the fund of terminal fee can be used in other projects for terminal facilities and spaces leased, subleased, or otherwise retained or used by a party at an applicable terminals. And there will be enough fund and extra funds also for the terminal facilities. Example is salary sa mga magbantay sa terminal. Well, kailangan yun o ang magbantay sa terminal, kay kung walay magbantay sa terminal, naay mahitabo nga naay uban Tricab drivers nga mag-ali sila bisag dili pa nila time nga mag-ali, so unfair sa uban nga kanang unfair sa uban nga maguna-una sila kuan kanang ali nga dapat dili nila ali, so dapat naagi magbantay sa terminal para naabitaw harmonious ang ilaang ang dagan sa ilaang ali. Dapat kanang arrange sila para fair bitaw ang mga driver, so kailangan gitag fund sa terminal para wala to siya gamiton para magsweldo sa magbantay sa terminal. So ikaduha is bayad sa kuryente sa terminal, kay need man gyud og light especially at night. So katong fund nga gikan sa terminal fee, pwede na to dito, pwede ra gyapon dito kwaon ang bayad sa kuryente, kay especially gabi kay kasagara ang terminal mag-off na sila og gabi, so need gyapon og light. So pwede ra para bayad sa kuryente or usa pa lang ang mga rent, basig ang uban mag-rent lang og space para lang sa terminal, so dili na sila need mangayo sa kanang LGU para sa rent. So dito na lang sila magkuha sa funds sa terminal, kay ang terminal fee tigumo na siya, so pwede ra dito ra nato kwaon, dito ra nila kwaon ang kanang bayad sa kuryente or kanang sweldo pud sa magbantay sa terminal. So second bullet is the revenue of LGU will increase due to registration of Tricab drivers. So for me, the revenue of LGU will increase due to registration because there are lots of Tricab drivers vehicle in Alubijid, and some of the operators did not register their Tricab. So it is a big revenue to the LGU if all Tricab operators will register their vehicle. And it is also mandated by the virtue of the municipal ordinance that all vehicles should be officially registered for them to abide the LGU regulations and guidelines for the sake of commuters' safety. Example is commuters, kay confident siya masakay sa Tricab, kay registered ang Tricab operator or vehicle, kay sagara operators nga registered ilang vehicle, kay kabalo jud na sila sa regulations sa karsada or mga balaod para safe ang commuter. Musunod jud na sila sa guidelines. So naay trust ang kuan commuter, so naay possibility nga naay kuan nga mo jud ang mga operators ilang yung i-register ang ilang vehicle. So kuan kining kung tanan yun nga Tricab drivers, operators mag-register sa ilang Tricab, so dako gid ang kuan nga dako gid ang kita or ang revenue sa LGU. So next bullet is the revenue of LGU will increase when there are Tricab drivers violators. So for me, the revenue of LGU will increase if there are Tricab drivers who will violate the guidelines, because if they violate the guidelines, their license their license will be confiscated and they need to pay for them to claim their license to operate. So wala sila kung mo-violate sila sa mga mo-violate sila sa kanang balaod, mo-violate sila sa mga regulations, guidelines sa LGU. So na possibility nga kuan ila ang lisensya, then ayat na nila makuha ila ang lisensya pag kanang ilan ng lukaton, ilang lagi sila dapat bayaran para malukat nila ang lisensya. So kuan pud na siya, puntos pud na siya sa kuan sa mga Tricab drivers kay kung naagid mo violate gid sila sa guidelines, need gid sila nga maglukat. So ang kuan is musalig gid ang tao sa ila akong dili sila mo violate sa kini ang mga guidelines. So kay ang uban Tricab drivers mahadlok na gid sila violate kay what is kailangan nila lukaton ila ang lisensya, kailangan nila kanang i-renew din ang ilang, kailangan sila magbayad sa ilang lisensya. So naagi ma-secure gid nila ang safety sa tao kay mahadlok man sila og kanang lukat, mahadlok man sila nga mo violate kay lukaton nila lisensya. So for me, that's all nga ako makuan ma'am sa strength sa LGU when it comes to incoming terminal fee, registration of Tricab drivers, and the Tricab drivers violators.
These are the weaknesses for the local issue. First, no existing policy. There is no existing policy about Tricab terminal in Alubijid. Mas maganda kasi kung may policy nito para maiwasan na ang mga makukulit na driver na nakaharang sa daanan ng mga tao. Malaking tulong ito sa mga tao ng Alubijid. Second, no place for terminal. So ayun, there is no exact or sure na lugar para sa terminal. Saan kaya dapat? Kasi kung walang space para sa terminal ng Tricab sa palengke, tas wala rin malapit sa mga schools, baka doon pa sa malayo sa mga maraming tao at baka mahirapan pa mga pasahero makahanap ng Tricab. So third, only registered Tricab or licensed Tricab are allowed to travel. Ito maganda to. The only registered Tricab or licensed Tricab daw ang pwedeng makapamasada, which is mapapakontin niya ang mga Tricab sa bawat sulok o daanan ng Alubijid. Madami ng Tricab ang nasa daanan ng mga tao sa Alubijid, kaya minsan nakakaharang na sila sa daanan. Kaya malaking tulong ang pagbabawal ng mga hindi lisensyado na Tricab sa Alubijid.
For the opportunities, these are 4 opportunities of the local issues. First, easy access to transportation. Yes, when we have a new terminal for Tricab, the passenger can easily access the transportation. It is because they will just they will know where the locations of Tricab terminal. They can just go there and find Tricab who is first to go. We believe that passengers empowerment is the future of travel. Accurate real-time information, the perfect place for the Tricab terminal. The route planners are therefore some of the features that help the traveler. In order to create a more convenient and seamless travel experience, we must put the passengers and their transport needs in the center of the solution. Second, provide safety for passengers. Yes, it can also provide a safety for passengers when there is a terminal for Tricab. Because in today's situation, there are a lot of Tricab here in Alubijid who are not registered or having a driver's license. And they can just go everywhere and anywhere, especially in public places. For example, in public market, there's a lot of Tricab and they're passing by and in and out to our public market, which is too dangerous for the people. And there, the situations of our Tricab right now is too messy. They don't have the right route to follow or terminal to stay in. And because of this, it can possibly cause of an accident for the passengers passing by. So that it is too important to have our terminal for Tricab here in Alubijid for the safety of the passenger. Third, The income of registered Tricab drivers will increase because they are allowed to pick up passengers. Yes, it will increase because they are only allowed to pick up passengers, and those who don't have registered Tricab or having driver's license are being prohibited to pick up passengers. In that, there is a big possibility that the Tricab in Alubijid right now will increase when there is a terminal for the Tricab in Alubijid. Then the last one is the vehicle can easily pass by because Tricab are not allowed to park in any public roads. As I had observed right now, Tricab in Alubijid, they are anywhere. They park every street in Alubijid, which can cause blocking the driveway, so that it is so much important to have a terminal for Tricab in Alubijid in that they cannot block the driveway and the vehicle can easily pass by. Thank you.
So these are the threats of local issue. Less income to the registered Tricab and non-licensed driver. Una, there will be less income to the unregistered Tricab drivers because the registered Tricab drivers lamang pwede makapamasada. At makakatulong ito para mapaunti ang mga Tricab sa mga daanan ng mga tao. Second, increased change to passengers fee. Minsan kasi, pag ang pasahero ay sasakay sa naka-route na Tricab, yung pamasahe ay minimum talaga. For example, yung nasakyan mong Tricab ay nakarota para sa Kalagkat na Alubijid, kahit hindi ka pa aabot sa Kalagkat, yun na talaga ang pamasahe mo. Example, 50 pesos lang ang pamasahe mo. So, 50 na talaga ang bayad. Third, acceptability of passengers' location to Tricab terminal. Yung mga pasahero punta talaga sa location ng Tricab o tinatawag natin na terminal. May chance na may pamasahe sila papuntang terminal. And fourth, a threat to jeepney drivers' income. Some people nowadays want an easier way. They tend to choose Tricab because it is one of the easiest way to go to their houses. Dahil ang mga jeepneys ay highway to highway lamang. Hindi katulad ng Tricab ay makakalusot kahit saan. Maihahatid ka pa sa iyong paroroonan. And the last one, the transportation fee of the passengers will increase. As I've said, people want an easier way, so Tricab drivers will grab the opportunities to increase the passengers fee.
For our recommendation, we have 5 here. First is enough land for the said terminal that cannot hinder establishments. Our first recommendation is enough land in Alubijid for the said terminal, Tricab terminal. Pero dapat ang terminal na ipapatayo ay hindi nakahadlang ang sa kahit anong establishmento o sanhi ito na ipapagiba ang mga establishment. It's more convenient if the terminal will be built in a vacant land, which is dapat maluwag-luwag na lote na walang nakatayo na kahit anuman para gigibain ito. At doon ipapatayo ang Tricab terminal. Second is minimal fee Tricab drivers in the said terminal. You should collect this minimal fee for the Tricab drivers. Malaking tulong din ito para sa mga Tricab drivers na bumabiyahe dahil hindi lang malaki ang terminal fee, which is malaki pa rin ang maiuuwi nilang pera sa kanilang pamilya. Third is tighten and expand the surveillance to no Tricab on the national highway. As part of the Road Clearing Department of the Interior and Local Government or DILG, Secretary Eduardo M. Anyo ordered to strictly implement the ban on tricycles including it is more convenient if they do not cross the national highways dahil according to the DILG ay nagiging sagabal at nagiging sagli ng sakuna sa kalye. Fourth, it should be near in schools, public markets. Nakakatulong kung mas malapit ito
dito sa eskwelahan o palengke. Pagkatapos nilang mamili o madali silang makakakita ng tricycle at hindi na kailangan pang maghanap at pumunta pa sa malayo para lang mag-abang ng tricycle. The last is lane for where the Tricab can operate. It is also more convenient kung may gagawing overpass or another lane para sa kanila na makaka-operate. Like bicycles or bisikleta. May sarili din silang lane na dapat sa kanila namin. At para hindi rin ganoon na as lane for where the Tricab can operate. Mas mainam kung may sarili silang lane or flyover kung saan lang makaka-operate na hindi nakasasagabal sa ibang mga sasakyan.
So, in our national issue is about the abolition of political substitution during elections. So, in pursuant to Section 77 of Batas Pambansa Bilang 881, otherwise known as the Omnibus Election Code, the substitution of candidates is allowed only in cases of death, withdrawal, or disqualification of the original candidate. In cases of death or disqualification, the substitute may file his certificate of candidacy up to midday of election day. However, in cases of withdrawal, the substitute can only file his certificate of candidacy within the period fixed by Comelec. So, our main problem there is the substitution policy in general. So, there were two causes and effects. So, let's start first, the two causes. First is that the voters will be confused. So, in this campaign period, prior to the electoral process, we often see in news, videos on social media, and hear on radio stations, candidates filing for their certificate of candidacy, withdrawing their COC so that other persons from their party can take over with sometimes really silly and shallow reasons on why they are withdrawing their candidacy. Additionally, the position gets vacant at all because only candidate backs out from his or her candidacy, and it all differs from one party to another. This kind of scenarios are getting pretty common nowadays, and political analysts deem it as a party tactic to confuse their opposition. However, there's a catch there. This kind of political tactics doesn't only confuse the opposing party, but also and predominantly the voters or the taong bayan itself. When the people talk, they already establish who they want to vote or who they want to study and check its track records, and then suddenly the winds of change pass by and those candidates just backs out. Moreover, not all people have access to literally always changing data. Those people with lack of access to this medium where they could get the latest information will get ill-informed or the present turn of events further perplexing the minds of the voters. So, lastly, the political tricks. So, what do we mean with political tricks? As aforementioned in my previous explanation, parties tend to switch up candidates to run for a position for the main reason confusing the opposing parties and possible altering and misaligning their campaign strategy. In battleground, not knowing what your opponent's next move is really frightening, isn't it? Yes. Additionally, predictability is power if you not know. Masking your intentions and plans by constantly changing your actions is ended perplexing to your opponents. This will render them dumbfounded and will surely destroy their plans. For them unable to predict your exit plans, the next move will make your party advance in perhaps more than steps ahead, and that is crucial if you want to win into something like an election, more specifically national. Many people dream about it, but only some got a chance to position themselves and compete to such contention, and I bet you they will do whatever hell it takes to sit on that wooden throne of being a political leader. The tricks will be played and only the wisest will win. Even if you say information is widely distributed nowadays, but wise plus these tactics will always prevail. Humans can be easily manipulated, and so if we have causes, there were also effects. So we have two effects here. First is that to prevent the system from being abused. No system is perfect. Even the system crafted with all the great minds in the history of humankind will always have its flaws, throwbacks, and loopholes. Human systems are really complex, you know. There are millions of possibilities and scenarios that even if the system is tailored directly to a certain granularly specified goal, humans will always find a way to jailbreak it. Now, let's go back to the topic. The main reason as to why we need to abolish this absurd political substitution is to prevent people from tainting and abusing it. Though we know that there are already restrictions enacted to prevent these abusive actions, but as we can observe, it is not enough. Disclaimer, we are not totally disapproving about this substitution candidate tactic stuff that other parties are using to instill confusion to their opponents. I'm against to the other effects that it creates, like for example, creating confusion of the voters. We, the madla, right? For me, we cannot totally remove the substitution of candidates as part of the electoral process. But at least, we could narrow down its criteria and restrictions. Let's add more what-ifs in this statement. So lastly, so as not to confuse people during elections, with the abolition of this absurd candidate substitution thing, we could lessen the confusion that it will create to the voters, especially to those who doesn't have access to real-time information. Critical people could also focus on studying candidates, their track records, their histories, education records, and whatnot. Media could also narrow down their focus, giving us news consumers the most narrowed down information that we need in line pa rin with the electoral process. In summary, we are just making ourselves or even our lives easy.
This topic is about national issue of the abolition of political substitution during elections. And this is the strength. There will be fixed candidate that will people choose during election. What does the personality of the ideal political candidates look alike? To answer this question, one must of the think about how personality traits can be informative about the two essential functions. What candidates are going to do during their term in office and how they are going to do it. In what follows, we will develop two principles that guide voters' preferences for politicians' personality traits. First, with regard to how candidates are going to put their office into practice, we develop the desired leadership traits principle, which state the voters on the average prefer the candidates who exhibit greater leadership trait than they possess themselves. And the second, with regard to prediction about what candidates are going to do, we develop the voter-politician congress principle, which states that voters seek personality congress with the political candidates in the part through the representation of the basic value and core ideological attitude. As already mentioned, politicians are expected to accomplish different tasks than ordinary citizens. They might therefore be endowed with certain traits and skills to engage in leading position, to work effectively with the public, or to communicate through news media. As a consequence, we expect that citizens want to candidates to exhibit certain required traits for the larger or lesser degree than than they exhibit themselves. Which traits are they desired leadership traits? How will they conduct their office? We want to approach this question by thinking about the tasks and duties that politicians are expected to carry out in democratic system nowadays. To start with, in democratic system, citizens usually prefer politicians who stay in touch with the people, who appear in the public and on the social media, rather than the hermits with reign maybe well, but in silent, untransparent, and isolated way from their palace. Those voters demand politicians who are ongoing, sociable, and talkative, which in terms of the big five translates of a politician with higher level of extraversion. The second strength is the peaceful and clean election. Democracy is our best defense against corrupt power, but it cannot be taken for granted and needs constant maintenance. Corrupt power often tries to undermine democracy through bribery, whether directly through payments of the cash, alcohol, or drugs, or indirectly through pork barreling project where international resources are inappropriately directed to local elites. Corrupt election result in a poor governance, increased poverty, crime, and social instability, which can lead to violence and war. There is a clear link between corruption and violence. Corrupt power is often maintained by exploiting division, stirring up fear and hatred of the military or externally agency. In this way, problems can be conveniently blamed on this scapegoat, while unscrupulous politicians portray themselves as the best protector against this threat. Under corrupt power, organized crime flourishes and can even take over the political process so that those approved by the crime bosses stand a chance of being elected. Peaceful and clean election campaign aim to safeguard and nurture democracy through educating voters about issue of corruption and inviting all the pledge of refuse to participate in bribery or violence. And this is the weakness. It can cause political dynasty. Political dynasty generally refer to the traditional political families or the practices by those political families of monopolizing political power and public offices from generation to generation and treating the public elective office almost as their personal property. Political dynasty, by limiting political competition, are through the exacerbate corruption, poverty, and abuse of the power. This paper examines the economic effect of the presence of the political dynasty in the Philippines and cities and municipalities. Taking into account possible channel in the local dynasty cycle, the framework in which political try to balance their goals to perform will be their constitution to divert resources for personal gain and to continue to be in power. Due to the lack of extensive income account or their economic indicator in a finer geographical unit, we use the Defense Meteorological Satellite Program Operational Line Scan System nighttime light data as our proxy for economic activity. Using a panel of the Philippine municipalities and cities in general, the relationship on political dynasty on economic performance is weak. However, we find that a higher share of economic expenditures lead to the lower economic development in municipalities where the mayor, government, and the congressman belong to the same clan. We see this as an indication of weak institution of checks and balance in locality with dynasty. Second weakness is it can cause boycott. A political boycott uses economic coercion to force its victim to speak or act politically in a way that furthers that goal, not necessarily of the speaker, but of the boycotter. Although the Supreme Court has not explicitly ruled on the legality of the political boycott, it has in many cases indicated that the First Amendment does not shield activity intend to censor individual to express the particular view. In a series of cases, the Supreme Court has established an analysis by boycotts that consider the following issue: is economic damage to the target business to the goal or the main of the boycott? Is the goal of influence political action or merely inflict economic harm on the businesses? Individual consumers choose of whether the patronize certain business is the private action that does not raise any First Amendment issue. Boycott, however, are organized campaign to influence other people chooses. There is thus a tension between the First Amendment rights of the boycott organizers to convince others to join their campaign, of convince the other to join their campaign of petitioning for change, and antitrust and restraint of trade laws instead of the prohibit harmful economic manipulation such as price fixing or conspiratorial behavior.
National issues, abolitions of political during elections. Problem 3. Opportunities. So first, the voters has a freedom to vote to their respective candidates. So it means the voters na sila freedom to vote working sa ilang gusto pili panahon sa eleksyon. Na sila kabaling kinsa ang nila botohan ng kandidato o mahimong angay na leader. Second, the candidate has the appropriate position in his her running. So it means ang kandidato na sila ang position or take or use something especially in a way that is illegal, unfair, or etc. Thank you.
For the national issue in the abolition of political substitution during election, there are two threads. First, the Senate has an interest in changing a specific legislation provision. This specific legislation provision might the Senate change this because gaya ng mga pangyayari ngayon na naabuso ng kandidato na tumatakbo gaya ng nangyari kay Sara Duterte na nag-withdraw tapos tumakbo bilang president tapos nag-withdraw na naman at saka tumatakbo bilang vice president para para malito ang mga kalaban siguro, pero ito ay isang pangyayari na hindi dapat kasi nakakalito sa mga voters or mga botante. Second, legislative vested interest. Legislative having a power to make a laws. So they pursue this provision so that the people or the voters hindi sila malilito na magboto ng tamang kandidato sa susunod na generation or sa susunod na election. Of this national issue, there are 5 recommendations. First, the willingness to take arrest of a candidate for running his or her position. So kung meron ng kandidato na tatakbo, talagang yun na talaga yung position na tatakbuhan niya. Yung hindi siya takot na magka-issue. Kumbaga, kung ano man ang issue na ibabato sa kanya, kaya niya itong protektahan ang kanyang sarili. At kaya niya itong masagot ng tama. Second, the candidate should have a political degree. Ito ang pinaka-importante sa isang politiko kasi marami sa politiko ngayon or previous na hindi man lang nakaranas ng pag-aral sa libre o pag-aral ng kahit man lang nakatapos man lang ng bachelor or background check sa kanila. So dapat talaga yung politician or kandidato meron talaga siyang background degree. Third, knowledgeable enough when it comes to politics. Marami din sa mga politician ang hindi alam kung ano ang ibig sabihin ng politics. Tatakbo lang ng tatakbo. So dapat yung politician talaga o kandidato, meron siya enough knowledge tungkol sa politics para kung matanong siya kung ano ang ibig sabihin nito or ano ang dapat gawin, direkta siya makagawa ng mga yung mga hinihingi ng mga taong bayan. Kadalasan hihingi man talaga yung taong bayan ng proyekto. Kadalasan yun ang mangyayari. Fourth, has political experience or background. Marami din sa mga politiko o mga politician candidate na kahit man lang sa barangay or campaign hindi nakaranas pero tumatakbo ng senador, ganun. So dapat ito talaga dapat talagang tingnan din ng mga politician na kung tatakbo sila dapat meron silang experience man lang kahit sa barangay. Fifth, doesn't have a background about unabiding any kind of law. Pinaka-importante sa lahat yung politiko na hindi natin naririnig na meron siyang nagawang kasamaan or ano ba yan? Yung may labag na batas, yung maririnig natin na protector ng drug lord. O syempre, iwasan mo natin yan kasi yan ay isang gawain na nakakasama din sa mga bayan. Tinitingnan man din yan ng mga taong bayan. And that's all.